Dry rubs are mixtures of herbs and spices that you can use to season any kind of meat. If you want to use a dry rub on your chicken, you can easily apply it right before you cook or far in advance. When you're ready to put the rub on your chicken, work the spices into the meat by hand so you're able to infuse the flavors. There are many types of dry rubs you can try, so pick one that has a taste you like. All-purpose dry rub, 1/4 cup or 27 grams of paprika, 3 tablespoons or 21 grams of ground black pepper, 3 tablespoons or 20 grams of granulated garlic, 3 tablespoons or 20 grams of onion powder, 2 tablespoons or 6 grams of dried oregano, 2 tablespoons or 6 grams of dried thyme leaves, 1 tablespoon or 17 grams of kosher salt, 2 teaspoons or 3 grams of coriander, and finally, 1 teaspoon or 2 grams of cayenne pepper. Sweet and spicy dry rub, 1 cup or 220 grams of brown sugar, half cup or 136 grams of kosher salt, 4 tablespoons or 27 grams of smoked paprika, 2 tablespoons or 14 grams of coarse black pepper, half tablespoon or 3 grams of cumin, half tablespoon or 5 grams of onion powder, half tablespoon or 5 grams of garlic powder, and 1 teaspoon or 2 grams of cayenne pepper. Herbal dry rub, 2 tablespoons or 27 grams of brown sugar, 2 tablespoons or 34 grams of sea salt, 2 tablespoons or 6 grams of dried oregano, 2 tablespoons or 6 grams of dried basil, and 2 tablespoons or 6 grams of dried parsley. Alright, let's dive into the lemon pepper rub. You'll need 1 tablespoon of lemon pepper, 1 teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of garlic powder, half a teaspoon of onion powder, half a teaspoon of dried basil, half a teaspoon of dried oregano, half a teaspoon of dried parsley, and finally half a teaspoon of paprika. Next up is the spicy dry rub. For this one, you'll need 3 teaspoons of paprika, 2 teaspoons of dried thyme, 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, 2 teaspoons of salt, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, and 1 teaspoon of black pepper. Now let's talk about methods, answer some common questions, and go over a few important warnings. Put the dry rub on the chicken anytime before you prepare the meat. Dry rub doesn't tenderize the meat, so it's okay to apply it to your chicken any length of time before you decide to cook it. Choose a time to season your chicken when it's the most convenient for you, whether that's a week before or the day you plan on cooking. Pat your chicken dry with paper towels. Make sure the chicken you're using is completely defrosted before you put your dry rub on it. Take the chicken you plan on seasoning with the dry rub and set it inside a baking pan so you don't spread any bacteria. Blot paper towels on each side of the chicken to absorb some of the excess juices and contaminants on its surface. Continue patting all sides of the chicken until the paper towels look clean after you blot them. Drizzle a light layer of olive oil onto the chicken if you want the rub to stick better. Olive oil helps the dry rub adhere to the meat so it's less likely to fall off while you're cooking it. Put a coin-sized amount of olive oil on the chicken and spread it evenly across the sides of the chicken. Only use a small amount of olive oil or else the dry rub will run off the meat and you'll lose the flavor. Pour an even layer of the dry rub on each side of the chicken. Use your non-dominant hand to scoop the dry rub out from its container and put it directly onto the chicken. You can use as much or as little dry rub as you want, but usually 1 tablespoon of dry rub for every 1 pound of meat you're cooking. Make sure you coat all sides of the chicken so the dry rub covers the entire piece of meat. Work the rub into the chicken with your dominant hand. Apply pressure on the chicken with your dominant hand, and rub the spices into the meat with a kneading motion. Work with the grain of the meat so the dry rub sticks to all of the hard-to-reach areas on the chicken. Continue rubbing the spices into all sides of the meat until it's completely coated. Store the chicken in a container with a lid if you don't plan on cooking it right away. If you don't plan on cooking your chicken right away, set it in a container that has an airtight lid so bacteria can't cross-contaminate other items. Put the seasoned chicken in your fridge and use it in about 1 to 2 days so the meat doesn't spoil. Use an all-purpose rub in any meal where you want flavorful chicken. An all-purpose rub combines savory and spicy flavors to make a rub that works for any type of cuisine. If you want to make your own, combine paprika, black pepper, garlic and onion powder, oregano, thyme, salt, coriander and cayenne pepper. Whisk the dry rub together until it's thoroughly combined, before storing it in an airtight container. Choose a sweet and savory dry rub for a classic barbecue flavor. Barbecue chicken usually has a sweet tang, so use brown sugar as the base for your rub. Mix in salt, paprika, pepper, cumin, onion and garlic powder, and cayenne pepper to give your rub more depth of flavor. Adjust the ratios of the rub you're making so it's as sweet or tangy as you want it. Try an herbal dry rub if you want a simple, fresh taste. Dried herbs work perfectly for seasoning chicken, especially if you want something that highlights the flavor of the meat. Combine equal parts brown sugar, salt, oregano, dried basil, and dried parsley in a mixing bowl, and whisk them together to form your rub. Keep the rub in an airtight container to save it for use later. Mix together a lemon pepper dry rub for hints of citrus and spice. Lemon pepper adds hints of sour and spice to your chicken, and it pairs well with vegetables. Combine lemon pepper, salt, garlic and onion powder, basil, oregano, parsley and paprika in a bowl and use a whisk to combine them. Keep the spices in an airtight jar or container until you plan on using it. Season your chicken with a spicy dry rub if you want it to have a little kick. Mix together paprika, thyme, powder, salt, onion powder and black pepper in a bowl with a whisk until they're thoroughly combined. A spicy dry rub is perfect if you want to make chicken wings or tacos. Use only a little dry rub at first so you don't make your chicken too spicy. Question: how long should a dry rub sit on the chicken? Answer: there's no set rule, but it's a good idea to cook the chicken as soon as possible after applying the rub. Otherwise it might get mushy and slide off, or you could lose some of the flavor. Try to leave it on for no more than 4 hours before you start cooking. Question: can you use a dry rub as a seasoning? Answer: yes. In fact, this is the main purpose of a dry rub. Follow a recipe or rub on the seasonings of your choice to give your chicken a nice flavor. Question: do you put dry rub on wings before or after cooking them? Answer: put the rub on before you cook the wings. This will help the flavor of the spices penetrate the meat more easily. Question: can I use chicken rub on pork? Answer: you sure can. The only reason seasonings are labeled as being for a certain meat, like chicken or pork or beef, is because the seasonings that are used in the mix are recommended flavors that pair well with those specified proteins. Question: how can I cook a whole chicken on the grill? Answer: debone the chicken and leave on the skin. Lightly brush cooking oil on it. Keep turning the chicken until it is done. Question: should I wash the chicken before baking? Answer: no, you do not need to wash the chicken before baking or applying the dry rub. Question: can I leave the dry rub on my chicken overnight? If I can, should I cover it? Answer: yes, you can leave your dry rub on your chicken overnight. It will still be good and ready to use for the next day. However, it is important for you to make sure it is covered and chilled for the remaining of the night before you're ready to use it. This prevents it from spoiling and drying out. Always wash your hands after you handle chicken, since you could spread harmful bacteria. Make sure your chicken is cooked to at least 165 degrees Fahrenheit, or else it's unsafe to eat.